Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, Text 39. Yudhishthir uvacha naham veda gating pitror bhagavan kwa gato ita ambavahata putrarta kwa gata cha tapasvini Yudhishthira uvacha Nahang veda gating pitror bhagavan kwa gata ita ang bhavahata putrarta kwa gata cha tapasvini Yudhishthira uvacha Nahang veda gating pitror bhagavan kwa gata ita Ambavahata putrarta kvagata cha tapasvini. Word for word meaning. Yudhishthira uvacha. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, Na, do not, aham, myself, Veda, know it, gatim, departure, pitroho, of the uncles, Bhagavan, O godly personality, Kwa, where, Gatao, gone, Ita, from this place, Amba, mother aunt, Va, either, Hata putra, bereft of her sons, Arta, aggrieved, Kwa, where, gata, gone, cha, also, tapasvini, ascetic. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, O godly personality, I do not know where my two uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt who is grief-stricken by the loss of all her sons. Purport. Maharaj Yudhishthir, as a good soul and devotee of the Lord, was always conscious of the great loss of his aunt and her sufferings as an ascetic. An ascetic is never disturbed by all kinds of sufferings. That makes him strong and determined on the path of spiritual progress. Queen Gandhari is a typical example of an ascetic because of her marvelous character in many trying situations. She was an ideal woman as a mother, wife, and ascetic. And in the history of the world, such character in a woman is rarely found. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yudhishthir uvacha Naham veda gating pitror Bhagavan kwa gato ita Ambavahata putrarta Kwa gata cha tapasvini. Narad Muni, who were just visiting. And prior to this, actually, Vidura, the relative of King Dhritarashtra, just also appeared in the scene, coming from different places of pilgrimage. He was traveling because he did not take part in the battle of the Kurukshetra, and therefore he became enlightened, became self-realized, being instructed also by Maitreya Muni. During his travel, he met him as well. So Vidura is a sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu means a saintly personality who is self-realized. That means he is also detached from the material attractions, meaning also sadhu means one who teaches especially the materialist, especially the householders. Supposed to be householders are prone to be more materialistic, but most of the populations are actually materialistic, and also at the same time there are in the what do you call householder lives. Of course, there are two kinds of householders. One is called grihasta, and one is called grihamedi. Grihasta means it's an ashram. It's like in the spiritual life, there are 4 ashrams. Brahmacharis, that means the student life. Grihastas, the married life, householder lives. And then the vanaprasthas, that means those who are in the retired life. And then the sannyas ashram. So these are different gradations whereby one becomes more and more detached from the material world and more attached unto spiritual life, specifically more inclined to go back home towards the spiritual world. So Vidura is a sadhu. Is a very, very enlightened personality. Therefore, when he came back from his travels and the battle is already over, Vidura was very much welcomed by all the 5 Pandavas. Of course, the 100 sons of King Dhritarashtra, they're all dead, they're all killed in the battlefield. And Gandhari also was there, one of the was left behind by with this battle. After the battle, Gandhari was very, very much aggrieved, so much into the sufferings, grief-stricken because of the dead sons that she had. So, yes, now because Vidura was very much concerned about his relative, King Dhritarashtra, who is at the time of birth, King Dhritarashtra is blind. He's blind by birth. Physically, he's blind, but also internally, he's blind as well. Blind of reality, that he became succumb and follow the dictations of his eldest son, Duryodhan, meaning is very envious and wanted to usurp the what is meant to be the kingdom is for the sons of King Pandu, who is the youngest, but he died early. So the five Pandavas, headed by Yudhishthir, Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadev, they took shelter under the wings of King Dhritarashtra, who is blind. So in the meantime, he is like the next heir until the five Pandavas will be grown up, and then they'll be given their proper what is due to them, the throne. But somehow or other, the cruel mind of Duryodhan, he wanted the kingdom for himself and for the whole family, instead of the kingdom which is due for the right heir, the five Pandavas. And therefore, they cheated in every way. They tried to kill the five Pandavas even while they're still young. They gave them poison, tried to give them a cake made of poison. They cheated him, or they cheated them with the brother of Gandhari. Gandhari means she was born in Gandhara. It's one of the provinces in what we call Afghanistan right now, by his or by her father. She was named Gandhari. So Gandhari also had 100 brothers, and the closest one is Shakuni, who helped. Is very, very cruel, very envious also, and is in the side of Duryodhan. So what happens is that they tried to, and they succeeded. They cheated in the game of dice to usurp the kingdom of which is supposed to be for the five Pandavas. That they're cheated. That they were not even given the whole kingdom, or even a size of an area is like the tip of the pin, or the head of the pin. So what is that? It's quite small. So they were put into exile for 13 years and 1 year incognito, and if they're going to be found or discovered in the 14th year, then they have to be exiled again for another 13 years. Somehow or other, they survive, and they decided that to be the right heir, to get what they're supposed to have, then the war was declared. And that declaration of war happened in Kurukshetra. So all of these stories is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva in the history of ancient Bharat, Mahabharat, because our planet actually was called Bharat Bhumi, but now the only remains is what we call India. So this Mahabharat is very long passage, long history, and the main heart is the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna the science of the soul, the science of God, Bhagavan, Jiva Atma, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. And this is our main book, the Bhagavad Gita. It's like for the Christians, they have the Bible, or for the Muslims, they have the Quran. For the Jews, they have the Torah. But for the followers of the Vedic culture, it is the Bhagavad Gita. So the battle just finished, and somehow Vidura came. So Vidura, it is a duty of the sadhu to waken up the sleeping materialists, especially the householders who are so much attached position and many things. So Dhritarashtra is so much attached to his position, even though he knew it was accepted that the 100 sons were killed and therefore they were defeated, but still he was still depending on the Pandavas now. He's still, temporarily he is still the king. Yes, he's still called Raja. But he's not Rajarisi. Rajarisi is different. Just like during the Vedic times, the kings, they're called Rajarisi. Risi means saintly personalities, because the king's supposed to be the protectors. The king's supposed to enlighten the citizens and bring them up to become Krishna conscious. But King Dhritarashtra is not capable. He's not capable of doing this because, as we mentioned earlier, he's blind inside. He's blind outside and he's blind inside. So now, from the purport here, or from the text, Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking about where are the whereabouts of his two uncles. That means Vidura and King Dhritarashtra. Where did they go? Because one day Vidura instructing King Dhritarashtra, now that your 80% of your life is already gone. Usually with human form of life, especially in Kali Yuga, we live for 100 years. In Dwapara Yuga, 1,000 years. In Treta Yuga, 10,000 years. In Satya Yuga, 100,000 years. So in Kali Yuga, this is prior to Kali Yuga anyway. So, but 80% means, it's like almost on the threshold. That means his body is a dwindling stage. He's coughing with mucus. He's barely able to balance himself. He's really like on the verge. And he's saying to him that you're just like a dog begging for food. What are you doing here? It's time for you now to retire and go to prepare for what is remaining in your life. So one of the purports, Prabhupada saying that in that time there is one Dhritarashtra, very famous Dhritarashtra, King Dhritarashtra. And Vidura, being a sage, being a sadhu, his words actually are cutting. This is one of the meaning of a sadhu, one who cuts towards the material things. the attachment, that namely family, friends, uh, relatives, and so-called loved ones. That Vidura, we should follow the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should follow in the footsteps of Vidura to instruct the conditioned souls, especially in Kali Yuga. In those days, one Dhritarashtra and one Vidura. Prabhupada says these days there are many Dhritarashtras. Practically 99.99% of the population are Dhritarashtras. But also we should have many Viduras to help the conditioned souls to cross over the ocean of material sufferings. This material world is compared to an ocean. And Dhritarashtra, he had a wife named Gandhari. So Gandhari, she's very intelligent, she's very compassionate, she's very truthful, she's kind, all the good qualities of a wife, of a woman should be. A wife or a woman, and also early stage of her life, even as a child, this is what I've read, she's afraid of darkness, that she will not let the oil lamp to be taken off, even while before sleeping or while sleeping. But somehow or other, Bhishma Dev was visiting that place, and many princesses. She grew up very beautiful, and many princesses all over the area, all over the nearby countries. They would like Gandhari to be their wife. But then when Bhishma was visiting, so she was asked. Her father was asked by Bhishma to be married to his nephew Dhritarashtra, because Bhishma promised not to get married. So and therefore, what happened is then the father agreed, but then at the time of marriage, of the wedding, it was not revealed that actually Dhritarashtra was blind. So what happened is that because compatibility is there also, she's a princess, and King Dhritarashtra also is like in royal order, both of them. So the wedding happened not just because of compassion that he was blind, but she didn't know. But then to be equal with the husband, because the husband is supposed to be more of the dominating, is the father in the family, supposed to provide and protect the family. But then because he was blind, then Gandhari also decided to be not able to see. So she put a belt around her eyes and never took it off. No, never. In the history of the world, there are not many great women like Gandhari. Draupadi is one of them, but Gandhari is very, very special to that by her example, very marvelous character, very strong. She was an ideal woman as a mother, wife, and ascetic. As a mother, yes, she took care of the children, even from the early stage of the 100 sons, trying to bring them up. She was very careful for them not to be against the principles of religion. She taught them how to be kind, compassionate, truthful, all the good qualities that the mother wishes for the child to be. Be very strong in values and morals and character, but they don't want to listen to her. It's not that she was lacking in trying to make those sons, 100 sons, to be like role models. No, but they don't want to listen to her. Even she was trying to correct King Dhritarashtra about how to properly adjust things according to the principles of Dharma. He will not care less, couldn't care less. Yeah, as a wife, she's a role model also. She's very chaste. She didn't want to be like overpowering more than the husband being blind. She didn't take advantage of that. And being ascetic. Ascetic means actions whereby a person performs severe austerities, controlling the senses and the mind in the pursuit of spiritual life. This is very much in need. So she's very determined. And now, because Vidura already convinced, somehow or other, King Dhritarashtra was convinced about the Vidura teachings that, yes, what am I doing here? I'm wasting my time. So they early in the morning, the next day, I will leave. But then Gandhari also, she doesn't have to go with him. She could have just stayed back. But because this is the duty also, because Dhritarashtra is blind, so physically, and she's also in that kind of position. She did not take off the blindfold, and she wanted to follow whatever the husband will do. It's like Sita Devi. She also followed King Ram, Lord Ramachandra, in the forest. She doesn't have to also, but it is a duty she taught me with. Yeah, no one knew. Sanjay, who was the King Dhritarashtra, it was Sanjay who described in the Bhagavad Gita, right from the very beginning, Dhritarashtra was asking Sanjay, Pandavas and his sons do prior to the battle of Kurukshetra.
Maharaj, please, you might have to unmute yourself. You are muted.
Yes. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we have to be very very strong in order to overcome all of these different trials and hurdles in our pursuit of spiritual life, because spiritual life is not so easy. The more we advance in Krishna consciousness, then the more we will face many tests. And therefore, we have to be strong spiritually, especially with our sadhana, with our morning program, with our chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the way we deal with each other amongst the devotees. We should be very careful not to commit any offenses. Uh, be always humble. Be always humble means presenting. We should present things as they are, um, and try to help each other in our pursuit of going back home, back to Godhead. So in this way, Krishna will reciprocate, as Krishna promised in the Bhagavad Gita also, that um, Yeyatamam Yeyatam Samiham. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. It's like Gandhari. So much surrender she has with things, how things are going on in the history in the Mahabharata. She's the one who suffered the most. It's like I was hearing every characters in the Mahabharata, they have their own chariots. And if you can still remember, Arjuna's chariot has the flag with the emblem or picture of Hanuman. And it says that Duryodhan has a chariot, and his flag, the flag of his chariot is a snake. Because it's like a snake-like personality. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna asked the blessings from Gandhari to be blessed, and Gandhari says, may you be victorious all your life. And Duryodhan also asked blessings from his mother. And Gandhari blessed Duryodhan to live a long life, because she knew that there is no contest. The righteous will win this battle, headed by King Yudhishthir and the five Pandavas. And it says that Queen Gandhari, her chariot has an emblem of one who sacrificed a lot and a lot of griefs. So this is the life and story of Gandhari, but still she is very famous because of her determination and caring, that in spite, he knew everything was wrong, what King Dhritarashtra is doing, because he's just on the side of his 100 sons, but she cannot do. But she is not actually agreeing, she is not condoning the atrocities, the wrongdoings of the other family members and other relatives. The principles of Dharma. So we learn from her this way, that it's very rare to be found for a woman to be as like really strong as Gandhari, like this. It's a few more verses here. And so, yes, we should all, members of the Krishna consciousness movement, should be like Viduras. Be self-realized, understand the purpose of human form of life. He was telling to King Dhritarashtra that you cannot be happy here now. And this should be also our, we should learn from King Dhritarashtra that finally he realized also that I cannot be happy in this material world. I was reading the other day that when one comes to the understanding that he cannot be happy in this material world, then he will make a lot of spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. And this is one of our problems. We have many obstacles in the process of devotional service. And one of the obstacles is that we still think that I can be happy in this material world without Krishna consciousness. Not putting Krishna consciousness as my priority, and I can still be happy. So we have to be careful in this way. I was reading the other day also that there are two kinds of devotees. One is exploitative devotee. One who's just taking advantage the benefits, material benefits of one being a devotee, or even trying to become a devotee. One gets so much material benefits. And another devotee, a kind of devotee, is one who is surrender devotee. Just like Gandhari, she's a surrender devotee. Yes, because if we are in the other category of exploitative devotee, then we think that we are happy, but we're not getting the real juice. We're not getting the real nectar, which is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and His pure representative, the spiritual master, without any self-interest, without any motivation, without self-vested interest. So in this way, the result of one's activities, if this is on this platform, the happiness is unlimited. It's not flickering happiness that one derives from enjoying the sense objects with our senses. And this is the fault of King Dhritarashtra. He just wanted to enjoy materially. Therefore, he is not happy. He is frustrated. But he is attached. And he cannot do anything about it. Not until when Vidura told him what to do. Then the inner vision was lit up. The inner vision of King Dhritarashtra was lit up because of the sharp words of a sadhu like Vidura. And then therefore they left. The three of them left, going to the Himalayas without telling anyone. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here. If there is any questions or comments from Krishna, Hare Krishna, Africa. Any points? Hari. Can I hear any questions or comments?
Yes, Maharaj. Question here. Can you hear me, Maharaj?
I cannot hear. What's going on here? Is anyone saying something there?
Yes, I'm saying something.
Oh, Maharaj! Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Thank you.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
know what you do.
Next lecture. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Happy to have you in Africa.
Yes. Are you in Africa right now?
Yes, I'm in Nigeria.
All right. Haribol.
Yes. So my question was about Gandhari. And
Yes, Maharaj.
Gandhari is described in Bhagavatam as a sadhvi. Says saintly.
Sagri.
Sadhvi is saintly. Sadhu for man.
Yeah,
Sadhvi.
Sadvi.
Yes. So she's saintly. She's a saintly lady. And according to this verse also, she's mentioned here as an ascetic.
Yeah, ascetic.
Yes. But this Rastra is described as ill-motivated. Sukadeva Goswami described him, ill-motivated Rastra. I mean,
Yes.
both of them are opposite. So I've been wondering,
Yeah.
what would make a saintly person to keep such an association? What is binding her that is remain in this association when the Vidura considered that association to be bad and he left home to travel to
Mm-hmm.
places and get
Yeah.
education? But she remained there. So I was just wondering, what is keeping her with a saintly person? And she's such a saintly.
Yes. It is her duty as a chaste wife, a very surrendered wife. Gandhari is very surrendered. Many times she was always trying to give instructions toward Dhritarashtra what to do, what is the best way possible to get out of the situation so that everything that happens will be in the right path. She will do that also knowingly that Duryodhan, her sons, they're all against the five Pandavas. But ultimately, she knew also that the victorious, because Krishna is there, she understood, because of Krishna is there, she understood that ultimately the Dharma will be victorious. So she did not give up right in the end. Even during the battle of Kurukshetra, she knew that the five Pandavas will be victorious, but she cannot do much. She cannot just leave them alone. Ultimately, by her being with them, give them a little bit of being auspicious, being with them. The mother is like that. She will never reject. Always praying for the well-beings of the sons and the husband. I was just reading the other day, or hearing, that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, he has a disciple, a female disciple, and the husband eats meat. So the disciple, the female disciple, what shall I do, Gurudev? He says, you cook meat for him. You cook meat for him because ultimately by your good example and you try your very best to be a good devotee. Eventually the husband one day will become a devotee like you. So she was always hopeful that Gandhari, King Dhritarashtra, and the 100 sons will one day will be woken up, will see the reality. So she was there. She didn't give up. And same with Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. He could have said, "Okay, you should separate. Go." then what will be the hope for the husband who's eating meat? That Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was willing for his disciple to cook meat for the husband and don't leave him. So, in this way, we can see that Gandhari is a real sadhu. It's like the spiritual master will never reject any disciples. It doesn't matter unless they become really like blasphemous or very, very critical. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Maharaj, is that okay?
Krishna, thank you much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Maharaj.
They should really
Krishna,
change the. They should really
Oh,
change
Narayan.
the.
What's that, Maharaj?
Well, she really changed the Strastra because I didn't see the change in the Strastra.
Well, not really, but she was always hopeful. And then Vidura saved the whole situation. Ultimately, she went with them to the Himalayas for the rest of their life. I think it helped for her to be there. It helps in a sense also. Some purification for King Dhritarashtra was there, even though he's always like, no, don't tell me anything like this. No listening, no avoiding her or something, her instructions. But she's always keep on instructing all the time. Is that all right, Maharaj?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Narayani.
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
I just want to find out when they were leaving, did Mother Kunti went with them?
I'm not sure because no one knew practically that they were living. Even Sanjay doesn't know who's the closest to King Dhritarashtra. They don't want to be known. I'm not sure. I have not read. It says there are only 3 of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody
Gurudev.
knows?
Yeah, she went with the Pandavas,
Okay.
not with the Strastra. She went with the Pandavas.
Yeah. The Pandavas also, they went along with them,
He
yes.
followed. He followed also that time, and
Follows
yes.
afterwards. Afterwards, yes. They finally understood from Narad Muni what happened because the question was to Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni revealed what happened. And then they also follow in the footsteps. They all went. Okay, Kavi Karnapur
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Maharaj. Kavi Karnapur Prabhu, please kindly unmute and ask a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Haribol.
Thank you very much for gracing our platform, like we desire, and we make it come true. So Maharaj, my question is related to the example you gave about the disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Oh, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked that he should cook meat for the husband. Because in this part of the world, we have this so many controversial situation where the ladies who are born in the movement, they grow up, and before you know, they don't find the Prabhujis who are ready to marry to them, and before you know, they want to go outside and marry kamis, and some of them they don't really want to eat meat. So what will you say about, is it the same with the one that is the guru asked him to cook meat, or this is not advisable?
I don't know. I guess it's time, place, and circumstances. if you have a daughter needs to get married, better find a Vaishnava, because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction, because he's a very powerful guru. He knew what's gonna happen, that the husband will become a devotee someday, but I don't know. It's difficult. Time, place, and circumstances. Things may change, and it's not a very good idea for a girl devotee or a boy devotee married non-devotees, and then trying to convince them. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do that. There's more chance that the marriage will be a failure. It's not, I mean, it's hard to imagine how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur can give that kind of instruction. His instruction is like an example also. They were building a temple, and the workers have to roll bidis, to smoke so that they will continue their working. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that he was rolling the bidis, or ready to roll the bidis for the workers, so that they will finish the temple quickly. So it's not so easy to comprehend this. They're acharyas for. It's not so easy. They can do that. They can do those things, which is like a general devotee is very difficult to understand how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and how they do it. So for normal devotees like us, I mean, if you have a daughter who's a devotee and she wants to get married with a non-devotee, and will you do the same thing like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Will you tell her, okay, you cook meat for him, okay? She has to be a very, very, solid devotee also. Because eventually, if she's not so solid, she may end up also eating meat with him. Right? So, no, we cannot use this example all the time. This is very rare examples. Don't do
Thank
that.
you very much, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Don't tell this to everybody. I would tell that okay, you just give them money so that they will eat outside, and you cook for your own. You don't cook for them. No, it's dangerous to say that to.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hello.
What about try to dive deep into the scenario and pick the principle in the instruction, Maharaj? Because I remember there is another story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, when he was receiving the British Raj. He asked some outsider to cook meat so that they can serve them when they come around.
I don't know. Prabhupada, in the opening of our temple, Ramnomi, usually the Vishnu Tattvas, we're fasting. We don't eat grains. But then for public, he says, you prepare grains. So, and Ramnomi in Vrindavan, there are two kinds of devotees. One who fasts from grains, because it is a celebration of the opening of the temple, celebration of the installation of the deities, opening of the temple, so we cook grains. And usually Vishnu Tattvas, we don't eat grains. So I don't know that story. I'm sorry, I cannot. It's not. You see, they we cannot imitate what they're doing, Prabhu. You may say, "Oh, I have a very VIP coming, and he's a meat eater, so we should cook meat for them, right? So that they will feel good." I mean, you know, but can you say we cannot do these things? It's beyond our comprehension. It's not possible for us. We cannot imitate. We're not acharyas. Acharyas can do things which is like not according to the norm, but still they can do it. Like Prabhupada, he changed 16 rounds. We're supposed, like to be lakpati, right? 64 rounds, but he changed. But now in the future, no one should change it for 4 rounds or 2 rounds only. Kali Yuga becomes, more and more difficult. So, okay, let's change it to 2 rounds only, okay? Or 4 rounds. We cannot do that anymore. So, acharyas may do it, but we cannot, no. We cannot do it. Not possible. All right?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Krishna, thank you so much. Sati Devi.
Sati?
I wanted to, please help me since it's Hare Krishna Maharaj. I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that there's no happiness, like once one realizes there's no happiness in the material world, searching for it. What about the devotee who's always trying to search for happiness as a devotee, like thinking if I change my situation, or if I do that differently, or if I go here, I'll be happier? What about that devotee? What's to be said of that kind of devotee?
Before one makes a decision, especially spiritual, kind of important decision, then one should always confer with the spiritual master or those who are more advanced than you are. Because this is the tendency of the mind. The tendency of the mind is always want change. But as far as I can see, I've been in a movement for many years. One who sticks in one service and just specialize on that service and do it for many, many years, he becomes really happy. Instead of, oh, I'm not happy with that, let me do another thing. Okay, let me do a different. You will never be satisfied. But if the guru says, okay, why don't you do these things this time? Then you just try to follow that. Don't listen to your whimsical mind, because no one can be happy without the blessings of the guru and advanced devotees of the Supreme Lord. Always ask. Even Prabhupada, he would ask for some suggestions from his disciples what to do. But he knows what to do. But to confirm, because Paramatma is already, within his reach. He knows what the Paramatma is telling him. But also devotees, whatever you want to make a very big decision, serious decision, always ask your friends or your loved ones whether this will also become successful for me or good for me to do. But if you just do it by yourself, more likely you may or may not be happy, but more likely you will not be happy, because you're only just following the dictations of your mind or your senses. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much for the answers, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have one.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be with you.
Thank you. I have a question. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, oftentimes people will say, do as I say, do not do as I do. You know. So we understand that Yudhishthira, this question came up, I think, a day or two ago when we had this Bhagavatam class. So the dilemma here is Yudhishthira is more or less Dharmaraj himself. Yamaraj, who is the embodiment of religious principles. But here we found Yudhishthira gambling. This same Yamaraj, because one sage in his childhood pierced an ant, he punished him for that. He punished him for that. You are punishing a child for piercing an ant, and as a result, you are also ready to cause some people, these rogues, to pierce an arrow through his anus all the way to his nostrils or wherever. But here is Yamaraj in the form of Yudhishthira gambling. And he did not gamble so cheaply. He gambled, he lost everything. He used his own siblings, he lost them. He used his own kingdom, he lost his kingdom. His own wife, he lost his wife. So why would he engage in such an act? And when other living entities commit an act less than what he did, he punishes them.
Well, as a king, you see, they're Satriyas. They're playing the role of Satriyas. For example, to practice the art of fighting, they will go to the forest and they will go hunting. And they will kill animals, but they will kill animals even with bare hands or something. So here, the question here is the principles of Dharma is to be established. So they're fighting for that. Even though, on the verge that almost they have forgotten, Yudhishthira have forgotten, like, you may even say the decision that he's trying to make, he became carried away. But ultimately, the original purpose why they were playing these dice is to establish their right heir, being the right heir, because they're the actual possessors of the land. And kings, they will do gambling. This is not against the rule of Dharma. They can do gamble. That's part of being a king. You understand? So, but then he get carried away in a sense. You may say that, yes, to ultimately attain the goal, they just, they even gamble.
Thank you. I understand what you're saying, but here is a situation in my country, in my mother country, where I come from. We have kings and chiefs, and they have rituals and ceremonies that they perform. And sometimes some of these rituals demand that a cow has to be slaughtered. Now, if a devotee is a king and at the same time a devotee, Bhakti Maharaj had a few devotees who were kings, and some are still alive who are kings. But because of our principles, there are certain things they are unable to practice or follow. So my question is, will it be all right without incurring any comic reactions if a devotee who is a king, and according to the customs, they have to slaughter a cow. What does the devotee king do? And if the devotee cannot kill the cow because it goes against religious principles, why isn't that the same thing to be applied to Yudhishthira, not engaging in the gambling?
King Yudhishthira also has to go to hellish condition for some time for like this lying, white lie. He was told by, the elephant was killed.
Yeah.
But this in this part of the gambling, this is the role of the, if somebody challenge you for gambling and you're a king, only kings amongst kings they play. An ordinary person, just like Karna, he was told, he cannot take part, isn't it? So yes, in this way, again, it's beyond our comprehension here. We should just accept the way as it happened. But my understanding is because the kings are allowed to play certain things, to do certain things. But in Kali Yuga, this killing of cows is prohibited. Killing of, in any ages, because in those days they sacrifice the animals, and the animals through mantra they will be revived again. So there is no more qualified brahmanas to chant these different mantras that the animals being sacrificed will be revived their life. So yes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Sri
Just
Shara
try
Prabhu,
to accept what, just accept it. Isvara Prabhu is there.
Yes.
Isvara.
Hare Krishna, we are waiting for you. When are you coming back to Vrindavan?
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Tomorrow.
hopefully we see you at
Yes.
Mangalati then. Okay, so just some little bit correction. Yudhishthira Maharaj was not Yamaraj, he was the son of Yamaraj. He was not Yamaraj. Vidura was Yamaraj. Yudhishthira was a son of Yamaraj. So he was
Son
not
of Yamaraj.
Yeah. So he was not responsible for for that.
Is Dharmaraj the same as Yamaraj?
Yeah, Yamaraj, because of being very highly religious, and I mean, it was known as someone who does not have an enemy. So even even the fact that when Krishna told him to lie, he did not want to lie. He didn't want to, because I never tell a lie before. Because of refusing Krishna to tell a lie, that's why he saw hell just for a brief moment. So, and also the earlier question by Bhakti Damodar Maharaj about regarding Gandhari, how he followed the husband, even though as she followed the husband, even though the husband was kind of, whatever. But because being a pativrata was somebody who followed the vow of chastity, following the husband.
Yeah.
Also, just like Mandodari, also the wife of Bharavan, she also followed the husband, even though she tried to tell him again and again that what you're doing is not good by kidnapping Sita Devi. But she still did, because the nature of the wife to follow the husband. So therefore, that particular point is the most important in the Vedic in the Vedic women. And even those women, even though their husband may be whatever irreligious, Adamic, still they follow them even to the point of even entering the fire, the sati, just like Mandodari.
Sati.
Yeah, the Mandodari, the Ganari also did the same thing. That principle of following the husband is there. and that is their.
Yeah.
That's what, and those women, they were revered. I mean, in terms of, they were highly praised because of that
Yeah.
chastity to the husband. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Maybe at a later
Okay.
time, but I would like to find out why Yudhishthira is a son of Yamaraj and not Yamaraj. Later, another time. Shri Vara Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj.
Hare.
Welcome to our forum, and thank you very much for your wonderful class.
Hare
Throughout the lecture and the questions that are being raised, there is one principle that keeps coming up that needs to be explained. And I wanted to ask question on that myself, but then I found out that it's actually running through the stream of all the questions that have been asked. So first is that I would like to throw a little comment, and then again maybe you can give us more clarification. So what is going on? What is the stream in in the questions and the class? The fact that we have to see what is the difference between swakarma and swadharma, because often we find that there is a conflict between your swakarma, your occupational duty, and swadharma, your religious principle. And based on that, Arjun, when he was confronted with, the perplexity of the duty between his responsibility to family and then religious duty, he wanted to become detached. He wanted to surrender all the material activities. And Krishna insisted on him doing his occupational duty, but giving the result. So this is the same thing going through whether a woman getting married and husband is different. There is the occupational duty and there is the religious duty. And at what point that and most often these things, they conflict. And we find in the teachings of Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 17, Krishna says, karma no here, Bodhavya, that is, the intricacies of actions are very difficult to understand. So once you understand what is action, inaction, etc. So anyway, my point is that there is always a conflict between swakarma, occupational duty, and swadharma. And one has to be able to understand at one point, one should either surrender the swakarma, or at one point one should do it and surrender the result to Krishna. Because Krishna ultimately asked Arjuna not to give up his swakarma, his duty, occupational duty as a kshatriya. So sometimes devotees confuse these things. Even in our own devotional life now, there may be some conflicting issue over material things like property, like land. And sometimes people think, no, that is just attachment, give it up. But Krishna never said give up. But then for what reason are you doing this? That is what is important. So anyway, that is my comment. And if you want to add some clarification.
Best thing is to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Everything will be cleared. What you said is correct. We have to do our duty, but then do it for me. Do it for Krishna. Whatever that may be. Okay, but then that's where, if we don't know what to do, that's where the spiritual master comes in. That's where the guru comes in. So you need a guru for whatever we need to do, but very, very important decision. Okay? We'll stop here now.
Well, thank you so
It's
much,
already 10
Maharaj.
o'clock.
Yeah, you said you are in Mayapur, right? So it's late.
No, I'm on the way to India now.
Oh, okay.
I'm on the way to Brindavan. I'm on the way to Brindavan.
Oh, okay.
Almost there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the inconvenience.
Thank
Even
you.
though you're traveling, but you still.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I
So,
decided to stay here instead of going today.
oh, Hare
I'm in
Krishna.
Delhi.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Maharaj,
Haribol.
Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj, do you have something to say before we bring the class to a close?
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
you
thank
left let's leave him.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, at this point, we're humbly going to ask all the devotees to unmute, and then we chant to beg Hare Krishna to express our appreciation for Maharaj's presence here.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Kalpataribhyascha Kripa
Bhuvescha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks very much, Maharaj.
Again. See you again. Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Okay.